There's a moment that comes to all of us. A moment when the ground beneath our feet suddenly isn't there anymore. When the job vanishes. When the diagnosis arrives. When the person we built our world around walks away. And in that moment, we're left with a question that echoes through the empty space. How do I survive this? 2,000 years ago, a slave stood in the marketplace of Rome. His name was Epictetus. His leg had been broken by his master and never healed properly. He limped when he walked. He owned nothing. And yet, when he opened his mouth to teach, emperors and senators would travel across the empire just to hear him speak. Because this man, who had less freedom than almost anyone alive, had discovered something that made him more free than any of them. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." 7 words that would survive the fall of Rome, that would be copied by hand through the Dark Ages, that would be read in the trenches of World War I, and that today sit highlighted in the phones of everyone from NFL quarterbacks to Silicon Valley founders to single mothers working 2 jobs. This is the story of Stoicism, and it's not the story you think. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture ancient philosophy. What do you see? Old men with long beards, muttering about virtue in marble temples, disconnected from the real world, right? Now open them, because the Stoics were nothing like that. Marcus Aurelius wrote his most famous work, Meditations, in a military tent on the frontier of the Roman Empire. The most powerful man in the world, surrounded by the smell of leather and smoke, writing by candlelight, while his soldiers died of plague outside. He never meant for anyone to read these words. They were notes to himself, reminders, instructions on how to stay human when everything around him was falling apart. One entry, written in his own hand, reads, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." This is philosophy? This sounds like a Monday morning. And that's exactly the point. The Stoics weren't interested in abstract theories. They were obsessed with one question. How do you live a good life when life keeps punching you in the face? Let me tell you about another Stoic. His name was Cato. He was a senator in Rome during its transformation from republic to empire. He watched everything he believed in crumble. He fought Caesar and lost. And when the war was over, when his cause was defeated, when his friends told him to surrender and save himself, Cato sat down, read Plato's dialogue on the immortality of the soul twice, and then took his own life. For centuries, people debated whether this was courage or cowardice. But here's what's fascinating. The Stoics didn't glorify death. They glorified choice. They believed that the one thing no one could take from you, ever, was your ability to choose your response. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived Auschwitz, would later write almost the exact same thing. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Frankl never claimed to be a Stoic, but in the darkest laboratory humanity has ever created, he rediscovered what Epictetus knew in chains, that your mind is the last frontier of freedom. Here's where it gets interesting, though. Because Stoicism has had a renaissance in the last decade, and not everyone is happy about it. Walk into any bookstore, scroll through any social media feed, and you'll find Stoic quotes overlaid on sunsets and mountain ranges. Control what you can control. The obstacle is the way. Memento mori. Remember, you must die. Critics say it's been turned into a self-help industry for tech bros and grind-set culture, that it's being used to justify emotional suppression, to tell people to accept injustice rather than fight it, to create a generation of men who confuse numbness with strength. And they're not entirely wrong. Because here's the thing about ancient wisdom. It's a fire. And fire can warm a home or burn a village, depending on who's holding the match. The real Stoics never said don't feel. They said don't be controlled by your feelings. They never said accept injustice. Marcus Aurelius spent his life fighting wars to protect the empire. They never said don't care. They said care about what actually matters and let go of what doesn't. There's a subtle but crucial difference between detachment and indifference, between resilience and resignation, between strength and stone. I spoke with a therapist who specializes in cognitive behavioral therapy, the psychological approach that grew directly out of Stoic philosophy. She told me something that stayed with me. The Stoics understood what we're only now proving in neuroscience, that our thoughts shape our emotions shape our actions, and our actions shape our lives. Change the thought, and you change everything downstream. Think about the last time you were stuck in traffic, furious, hands gripping the wheel. The traffic isn't causing your anger. Your thought about the traffic is. Your belief that this shouldn't be happening, that you're entitled to an empty road, that this is somehow personal. The Stoics would ask, is the traffic within your control? No. Then why are you giving it power over your peace? This sounds simple. It's not. Try it for one day. Try noticing every time you're upset and asking, is this within my control? You'll be shocked how often the answer is no, and how much energy you're bleeding into that battle. But here's the part that makes Stoicism dangerous, in the best possible way. The part that keeps it from being just another mindfulness app. The Stoics believed that virtue, meaning wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control, wasn't just important. It was the only thing that mattered. Everything else, everything, was what they called indifferent. Money? Indifferent. Fame? Indifferent. Health? Even health was indifferent. This is where modern readers slam the book shut. But wait, they didn't mean those things are worthless. They meant those things don't determine your character. A good person can be poor or rich, famous or forgotten, sick or healthy, and still be good. A bad person can have all the wealth and health in the world and still be miserable, still be empty. What the Stoics were saying is, stop outsourcing your happiness to things you can't control. The promotion that went to someone else, the relationship that ended, the body that's aging. These things hurt. The Stoics knew they hurt. But they don't have to destroy you, because your character, your choices, your integrity, those are yours. Always. Let me leave you with one more story. It's about James Stockdale, a Navy pilot shot down over Vietnam in 1967. He spent 7 years as a prisoner of war. He was tortured more than 20 times. No prisoner's rights, no set release date, no reason to believe he'd ever see his family again. Years later, someone asked him how he survived. He said he never lost faith that he would prevail in the end. But he also confronted the brutal facts of his reality without any fantasy. Then he said something that echoes through time. I never lost faith in the end of the story. I never doubted not only that I would get out, but also that I would prevail in the end and turn the experience into the defining event of my life, which, in retrospect, I would not trade. And when asked who didn't make it out, he said, the optimists. They were the ones who said, we're going to be out by Christmas. And Christmas would come, and Christmas would go. Then they'd say, we're going to be out by Easter. And Easter would come, and Easter would go. And then Thanksgiving. And then it would be Christmas again. And they died of a broken heart. He called this the Stockdale paradox. Faith in the ultimate outcome married to absolute acceptance of present reality. Hope without delusion. Strength without brittleness. He survived by practicing Stoicism. He'd memorized Epictetus before he was shot down. And in that concrete cell, those words became his life raft. So, here we are, 2,000 years after a limping slave in Rome, in a world of smartphones and space stations and artificial intelligence, and we're still asking the same question. How do I survive this? Maybe the answer hasn't changed because the question hasn't changed. Because we're still human, still mortal, still capable of suffering, and still searching for meaning in the chaos. The Stoics don't promise that life will be easy. They promise that you can be strong. Not strong like a wall that never breaks. Strong like water that finds a way. Strong like a tree that bends in the wind but keeps its roots in the ground. In your pocket right now, you have more computing power than NASA used to put a man on the moon. You have access to more information than Marcus Aurelius could have dreamed of. But you don't have anything he didn't have where it counts. You have a mind. You have choice. You have this moment. And that, the Stoics would tell you, is enough. It's always been enough. The question is, what will you do with it?